I just said you gotta have a lot happening sometimes, like in the last chapter. And then you have to have some chapters where nothing happens. I have like a third of a page of notes on this. For most of mine, I have like a full page of notes. Um,
Right.
this Journey to the Crossroads, chapter 7, or chapter 18, depending on how you look at it, is. I mean, what even happens here?
Yeah. It's just a bridge to the next part.
Yeah.
And Tolkien is right. We need some breathing room.
Yeah. That's it.
That's
That's
the
the
big
whole
thing.
chapter.
That's okay. All
So
right. Good talking to you right now.
you gotta have some of these sometimes. So basically, the plot of this chapter is Frodo and Sam leave Faramir and they walk. That's the whole
Yeah.
thing. There isn't any conflict. There are, I think, 2 points of interest in this chapter. Maybe 3. 2 points that are actually interesting, and 1 point that's like, I wonder if that gets explained later.
Okay.
And then the chapter kind of ends, and it ends a little bit abruptly. And I said, "Huh, that's weird," and then moved on from there. So I didn't like this chapter very much, but I understand it's
Okay.
like a necessary evil, I guess. Um,
It's a pacing thing.
yeah,
You have to take a deep breath before the conclusion chapters, the climax.
yeah. Well, watch this episode be 15 minutes long. It's okay. We
That's
gotta
okay.
gotta
I
allow the
doubt it.
audience to catch up sometimes. So chapter begins with Faramir getting Frodo and Sam up and feeding them breakfast.
Amazing.
He
Big
says,
fan of breakfast.
"Yeah, I actually. Oh yeah, yeah, you are that
Yeah.
guy eating cereal in the office. We don't have to talk about that though.
Well, we just have. Okay.
I
So
mentioned
Faramir
it.
does them a great service by feeding them breakfast.
I'm glad he does, and he also gives them a bunch of food and stuff
Yes.
to take care of them. We'll talk about that in a second. He says something is brewing in Mordor. A swift conclusion is coming to this problem, and then I assume that's something that we'll deal with in Return of the King.
You are correct.
Very cool. Is that a Pelennor Fields thing or?
That's a everything thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm glad it had that sound effect. That was cool. Um, as they're leaving, Faramir doesn't just feed them right then. He gives them provisions, and he gives them gifts of 2 staves or staves, which are cut down to be hobbit-sized, which is a nice, fun little detail. I'm glad
Yeah.
Tolkien addressed that. I would have complained about it if he didn't, but Faramir
I
said
know.
they are cut down just for you, and we shod them this morning, so everything's ready for you. Very reminiscent of Lothlorien,
Yes. Yes.
I think. Is that what you were going to say about it?
Yeah.
Anyway, so we move on. Yeah, Faramir, as much as I think we mentioned this, 2 chapters ago or something like that, Faramir was talking about how they had lost a connection with the elves, and so they didn't have they didn't have a sense of like how the elves functioned anymore. But Frodo, or maybe it was Sam, said, "You're kind of elf-like yourself. I don't know about that." And so even those same traditions have carried over here into Gondor.
Yeah.
Faramir is noble beyond his years or his race. Incredible. um, then they leave,
Yeah.
and the rule is Gollum has to be blindfolded as he goes out. I assume, does that just have to do with like Frodo and Sam are free to travel wherever they want to, but Gollum isn't, or what?
Yeah. Faramir has formally proclaimed that Frodo and Sam are allies and friends of Gondor, so they don't have to be blindfolded. They're trusted.
Gollum is
Gollum
not.
is not trusted. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but instead of so Frodo and Sam don't have to be blindfolded going out, but Gollum does. Um, Frodo volunteers to have himself and Sam blindfolded going out to make everybody equal. He's seems like he's like trying to make things okay between him and Gollum,
He's
and
trying.
I feel like he also knows that that relationship is not going to go too well at this point. But
Yeah.
he is attempting as best he can. Doesn't mean Gollum's not blindfolded, but at least everybody is disabled in the same way.
Yes.
So they get out, and after they get far enough away, and after the Rangers leave them behind, Gollum immediately puts Faramir on blast. It's like, I hate
Yeah.
this guy. He's done terrible things to me. Frodo says, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say nothing at all. And
Yeah.
Gollum says, I was joking. I always forgives even the master's trickses.
It's very scary.
Well, I mean, he's not holding a grudge at all. Otherwise, he wouldn't be forgiving Frodo's trickses. You
It's
know,
a great point.
he's very trustworthy at this point. So at least you see that he has a recognition he doesn't like Frodo very much,
Yeah.
and as much
You,
as
you know
he,
one
yeah,
oh go ahead, sorry.
I don't know if that is, I don't know if that is legitimately like Gollum believes that. Oh, that was actually a joke. I didn't really mean anything by it, or if that was actually just vindictive. I think it's actually vindictive, but I also
I
don't
think
like
so.
Gollum very much. So
No, I think you're right in this case.
very cool.
Um,
In every case, come on.
and most of them, I'll
Yeah.
grant.
Oh yes, let's go.
Um,
You were gonna say something.
I was one thing this chapter does do, now that I think about it, is we felt very safe once we learned to trust Faramir. And we were away from Gollum. We didn't have to hear his nasty self-loathing or deceptiveness or anything like that. Which you get used to Gollum pretty quickly because you meet him right at the gate in Two Towers.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have a break, and now he's back, and it somehow feels way worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you lose all of the civilization that came with Faramir and his people.
Yeah,
You lose extended conversations. Faramir, one of the reasons I liked him a couple chapters ago is he's speaking in complete paragraphs, like multiple at a time, which is such a break from how Frodo and Sam have been communicating up until that point, because it's very
yeah,
functional for them and for Gollum. They do what they need to do and then they move on. But Faramir has there's just like a sense of higher society or more civilized
sure.
people.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
have
yeah,
the time to do these things. One of the lines that Sam throws out in this chapter is, "It isn't even tea time if we were in a place that would have any kind of tea time." Faramir's place would be a place that has some kind of tea time. Like they have actual meals and they eat together and they have rituals and stuff like that. Um, but you lose all of that and you gain back the wandering in the wild, and suddenly there's a very distinct, jarring nature to everything because Gollum is really messed up and we hate him. I mean, he's misunderstood. I can't wait for the hunt for Gollum to be like, oh, he's just a poor misunderstood guy when he's actually just bad.
we'll see what in the world happens there.
Yeah. I'm I don't have to bring up the other Lord of the Rings movie we talked about. We don't have to talk about that yet. Oh my. So they travel. They walk a bit. A lot of this chapter is like descriptions of them walking for this takes place, is it like a 2 days, 2.5 days, something like that?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Um, they walk a long way in the forest until the trees thin out and they become more visible. And that's about the point where they need to head over straight east, and that's where around where the pass is. And so they'll go over and cross the mountain. That's their plan, at least. There was a mention while they're walking through the forest. This is one point of interest, that as they're traveling through, the hobbits are able to sleep Frodo sleeps under a tree. Sam sleeps fitfully because he doesn't really trust Gollum, but he does sleep back and forth. And there's a mention that Gollum is he disappears and they don't know what he did. Like they don't know where he
Yes.
went. Um, whether he is sleeping by himself or maybe he's wandering restlessly, prowling through the night. But he shows back up at some point, and they keep on going. They get a little bit further down the road, and they start to they climb up a tree to sleep in the tree, and they can't sleep on the ground because it is an evil road, and they don't want to sleep by it. So they climb up in a tree to take shelter. To which Gollum immediately falls asleep, and neither Frodo and Sam can sleep. Which is a
Yes.
very basic way of saying, hey, Gollum's really comfortable with evil stuff. And Frodo and Sam are not comfortable with evil things.
Yeah. I think
And
that's fair.
then they travel again. That's about all I have for this chapter. I know there's still more of it, but like, what else is there? Anything that stands out to you out of the rest of this?
Yeah. I mean, if you're listening and you haven't read it, you can read through here and enjoy the good descriptions.
You're
I
very
like
descriptive.
those. Maybe I'm weird,
Wow.
um, but I'm not gonna read through them. Um,
Yeah.
hmm,
There
let's see.
is
Oh yeah, go ahead.
as they a big contention in the second half of this chapter because yeah, we're already halfway through the chapter is
Yep.
they are waiting for the daytime, but at this point they are, from what I understand, close enough to Mordor that there's not really a daytime. Like, the
Yeah.
daylight isn't really light, it's all just kind of obscured and clouded, and they're waiting for a day that never comes because it's a bad area. And so a lot of the description in the second half of the chapter is like, it's daytime, but it's not daytime. We are all
Yeah.
very confused.
Man, it feels so wrong if you imagine it while you're reading through here.
Mm-hmm.
It's uh, it's gonna be a big theme in Return of the King also.
Okay.
This shroud of darkness coming out of Mordor. Yeah.
So this is like a physical cloud that's coming from Mordor. Is
Yeah.
that
On this
the idea?
point, yeah. At this point, it's subtle enough they're not sure if it's natural or not,
Okay.
but it's like cloudy all the time when it shouldn't be cloudy all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I feel like there's a mention of that in the movies, that there's like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
big cloud that's coming from Minas Tirith or something. Because orcs can't walk in the daytime,
Yeah.
um, but they can if there's a cloud. Letter of the law type moment. So yes, so that will intensify as we go, and I
Yeah.
assume the closer into Mordor you get, the more that's true.
For sure. Yeah.
See, when a volcano explodes, it creates a massive cloud that just never disappears.
Yeah. It
Turns an
helps
entire land into a
if your
mist.
volcano master is also a powerful fallen angel dude.
True.
Yeah.
True.
That's the missing ingredient.
My I need to watch Rings of Power while I still accidentally have Amazon Prime. I gotta
What?
catch up on season 2. Can't wait. I'm sure it's
Oh
glorious.
no!
Um,
Don't watch it, Reagan.
I have to for the meme. It's so bad, but it
It
could
is.
be so good. Anyway, this is a point where Gollum disappears again.
Yes.
And I wonder if this gets explained in a future chapter because Gollum never
Oh yes.
answers what he is doing.
Yeah.
Um, so this is going to be explained.
Oh yeah.
Very cool.
Can probably guess exactly what the explanation is, but
I assume he's just setting stuff up for his future betrayal, but I don't really know what that looks like or um, whatever that would be. All I know is Gollum has boundless energy while they're hanging out in the darkness, and the evil road is empowering him, and that does not speak well for his character. Um, Sam even says Like, I don't really mind that he's gone, as long as he's not doing anything bad, or as long as nothing bad comes out of it, which is going to age terribly. But we can leave that for then, I suppose. Um, and when Gollum returns, he is very insistent that they go immediately. He will not
Yeah.
say why. He will not
Yep.
say where he's been.
Nope.
He just wants to go right then. And so they end up going right then. Yep. And
That's
then,
probably not suspicious.
yeah, probably not at all. Uh, and then Frodo comes across a statue
Yeah.
in
What do you think about this?
chapter. This is like the other thing that's interesting is so maybe I just didn't read it super carefully. He comes across like a defaced statue in it's in the land where he's in right now. Like it's like 10 feet away from him or whatever. It's
Yeah, yeah,
right
yeah.
next to him. He also looks back and can see Gondor, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So he's not seeing like some massive statue in Gondor. He's seeing an old Gondorian statue from back when they used to gatekeep this side of the river. That's the wrong
That's
word
right.
for it, but
Yeah, but
whatever, it
when they
works.
had people here, yeah.
Yeah. Statue is defaced. It is graffitied on. Orcs do graffiti. Don't be an orc. It is beheaded. Orcs behead things. Don't be beheaded. Um,
Good point.
that's key life advice. And basically, it seems to stand as this picture of Gondor's weakness and corruption, especially as Frodo looks back to the west, which is Gondor right then, and he sees the sun setting over it. There's kind of a probably some symbolism there.
I think you might be right.
I could be onto something. I guess we'll see in book 3 if that happens or not. Um, and then there's like this random moment where Frodo says, "Oh wait, actually, there's the king's head, and it's growing a flower." And then the world goes dark because the sun sets.
Yeah.
And then the chapter ends, and you're like, "Wait, what?" What?
Yeah. Well, it's very biblical, right? One of the yeah, we'll just dive into this. Yeah,
Sure.
like one of the titles for Jesus is the root of Jesse or root of David.
Isn't it the shoot?
This it's kind of a synonym
Is
sort of
it?
situation.
Okay.
But the idea, like that kingdom of Israel, was cut down, destroyed, devastated, fallen into darkness and disrepair. But the root was still there; it could still be restored.
Mm-hmm.
And even in Jesus' case, like 200% is a much better restoration, right?
Yep. Yeah.
The idea of darkness coming before light is one of those uncomfortable biblical themes.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah, and so we will see that play out in Gondor as Aragorn, because as we left Aragorn's half of the Two Towers, he is poised to go into Gondor and to
yes.
take over and do some things, but it won't be easy. Question I did have on this is, how do you think this is supposed to be read? Like, what do you like? Where do you see the focus ending up? Because you have this moment where Frodo sees this hope, and he says, they can't conquer forever, and then suddenly the brief glimpse was gone and everything's dark.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I read that, I'm not really sure what Tolkien meant by it, because either way you have this picture of like there are still good things and there is darkness and bad stuff. But I don't know, when you just read straight through it, it sounds like there is hope and then it gets covered up by darkness. Oh, there is no more hope. But I
Mm-hmm.
feel like the point of even seeing the defaced statue and then seeing the head which grows flowers on it is to say, even though it's dark, there is hope. But then the chapter ends with like, there is hope, actually no, it's dark. And so I don't know. Is that supposed to ultimately be focused on the hope that there is, or is that focused on the darkness of the moment? What?
Well, let's see.
How does it read to
For
you?
me, yes. To me, it seems like you can't have one without the other of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Um, and when we keep reading through this book and get to Frodo and Sam in Return of the King, uh, the symbolism of light will come up again. I think it's in Return of the King where there's a really, really obvious and beautiful thing. And I also at the end of this book, perhaps no, also Return of the
No.
King. Return of
This
the King.
book ends with Sam headbutting a gate.
That's correct. Okay, there
That's
you
the only thing I remember.
go. So, I guess the best. I I feel very convinced that Tolkien is drawing on that biblical idea.
Yeah.
Um, there is hope, even when it really looks like there isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the hope Frodo sees in this picture of this statue with the flowery crown is it's almost nothing. Like it's kicked, beheaded, but the fact that it has the crown hints that things can get better.
Yeah.
But the reality, as you noticed right now, is that everything's really dark and hopeless.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to get through the darkness to see the hope on the other side, or the culmination, the good things actually coming into reality that they're hoping for.
Yeah. Well, like either way, because both of the elements are there, either way, it's going to end up at the same place. Like there is hope, even though there is darkness. I'm just, I'm just not sure if Tolkien wants us to be focusing on the hope that there is despite the darkness, or the darkness that there is that covers up the hope at the moment.
Mhm.
I feel like it's left on. If it wanted us to focus on hope, it would end with like the sun went down and the land went dark, but Frodo remembered the glory that there was, and so there
I
would
see.
be more
I
of a
see.
picture of hope there and an emphasis there. But the
Yeah. If
fact
you're going to
is,
slice the emphasis, you're right. It would be on the darkness, which is fitting for where they're moving the next couple chapters.
and that's where I was going, because
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
they're they're not going to go into a very good situation. But speaking of gifts of Lothlorien and receiving those at the beginning of the chapter, Frodo's gift from Lothlorien was a light for when all the other light goes out, I
Yeah.
believe is how it was phrased, which seems like it would become really useful when everything goes dark around you and you don't know where you're going. So I wonder if that will come up.
It may.
And we'll leave that for next time. Anything else on this chapter before we wrap this up?
3 chapters left.
Based.
That's not technically on this chapter, but I wanted to say that.
Well, it's here at the end of the chapter. It's a reflection point, an inflection point. Yes, we have Kirith Ungol, which is, I suppose, just climbing up there. We have Shelob's lair, which I wonder what that could be about. And we have the chapter where Sam throws himself headfirst into a gate and knocks himself out. Spoiler alert for the ending of the Two Towers. That's how it ends.
Yeah. That's almost unforgivable.
Yeah, it's terrible. I remember even reading this as a kid. I was like, I was very young when I first read it, like 7, 8, something like that, I think. And then I was fairly young when I second read it, like 13 or something.
Mhm.
And I didn't get a lot of what the books were going for. But I remember vividly reading the ending page of Two Towers several times over, because I was like, did he actually just jump into a gate? Is that real? And yeah, it was. So
That's pretty funny.
glad that moment did not get adapted into the movie, because I would laugh at it, even though it's supposed to be
That's
very
fair.
serious.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's where we'll
Okay.
leave it. 24 and a half minutes. We're getting
Crazy.
so efficient at this.
Yes, for sure.
Uh-huh. And I have a feeling next time will not be quite so short, but we'll leave it for then.